The night sky above Seoul erupted with light as the massive Vraxian vessel broke through the cloud cover. It wasn't like the movies. No warning, no diplomatic attempts. One moment, the city skyline stood peaceful under the stars. The next, a ship larger than most downtown buildings hovered silently, its dark metal surface absorbing rather than reflecting the city lights below. 10-year-old Sora Park was sleeping when they came. Through her bedroom window, a beam of light, unlike anything Earth technology could produce, cut through the glass without breaking it. Her father, Minho, woke to her scream, a sound that haunted his dreams for months after. He reached her room just in time to see her small form rising through the ceiling, surrounded by that impossible light. His hands passed through the beam as if it were nothing but a projection, while his daughter disappeared into the night sky. Across the world, 11 other families experienced the same horror. In Mumbai, young June vanished from a family celebration. In Rio, Hana was taken from her beachfront home. In Toronto, small Q disappeared while stargazing with his telescope. 12 children in total, all between 8 and 12 years old, all gone in an instant. Dr. June Park wasn't home when her daughter was taken. She was working late at the International Research Center, analyzing atmospheric anomalies detected hours before the ships arrived. When the call came from her husband, she collapsed into her office chair, the phone slipping from her hand. But shock quickly hardened into resolve. If anyone on Earth understood alien biology, it was her. Her classified work on theoretical xenobiology had been dismissed as fantasy by many of her colleagues. Now, it might be the only hope for getting the children back. "The government's calling for you," said Dr. Yuna Kim, her assistant, who had rushed into her office after hearing the news. "The Defense Ministry, the President's office, everyone." June barely heard her as she stared at her monitors, where the alien ship now dominated every newsfeed worldwide. "They'll call for surrender," she whispered. "That's what they always do in a crisis." 6 hours after the abductions, it happened exactly as she predicted. All broadcasts worldwide were interrupted simultaneously. Screens filled with the image of a humanoid figure with gray-blue skin stretched too tightly over angular facial features. Large, lidless eyes blinked vertically, and when it spoke, its thin mouth barely moved. "People of Earth," the translation. Overlay read as the creature's clicking speech was processed through AI translators worldwide. "I am Commander Day of the Vraxian expansion. We have observed your kind for decades. You possess resources we require and a planet suited for our needs. We now hold 12 of your young as insurance against resistance." The broadcast cut to an image of the children, suspended in transparent chambers, seemingly asleep or in stasis. Sora's face, peaceful, yet unnaturally still, filled the screen for several seconds before the commander returned. "You will surrender all military capabilities and resource rights to the Vraxian Authority within 48 Earth hours, or we will destroy your most populated urban center. Further resistance will result in the termination of 1 child per day until compliance is achieved." In the chaos that followed, world leaders scrambled to organize an emergency summit. Military forces worldwide were placed on highest alert, though no one knew what good conventional weapons would do against a species capable of such technology. June didn't wait for official channels. She downloaded the broadcast and began analyzing it frame by frame in her lab while governments debated surrender versus hopeless resistance. Something about the commander's environmental suit caught her attention, the way condensation formed along its edges when he spoke. "They're wearing atmospheric protection," she murmured, zooming in on the image. "Why would they need that if they plan to take our planet?" Her phone rang constantly. Government officials, military personnel, her desperate husband. She answered. Only the call from Colonel Tae Kim, whose son Jun was among the taken. "I'm outside your lab." His voice cracked slightly, betraying the military stoicism. "The defense minister has authorized a special task force. We need you." When she opened the door, she found not just Colonel Kim, but also Captain Han from Special Forces and Dr. Yoon Lee, the country's foremost technology expert. Their faces showed the same mix of desperation and determination she felt. "They've taken my son," Colonel Kim said simply. "And your daughter." We're not waiting for politicians to decide their fate. As they settled into her lab, the news reported the first act of Vraxian aggression. A small uninhabited island in the Pacific vaporized as demonstration of their power. The message was clear: surrender or face annihilation. Look at this. June pointed to her screen, where she'd isolated patterns in the ship's energy emissions. Their shield system isn't continuous, it pulses in a regular pattern with microsecond gaps. Dr. Lee leaned forward, his eyes widening. If we could time an approach precisely, we could get aboard, Captain Han finished, already thinking tactically. For the first time since seeing Sora's face in that alien chamber, June felt something besides despair. The gap was incredibly small, a millisecond at most, but it existed. It was a flaw in supposedly perfect technology. Colonel Kim was already on his secure phone, arranging for a stealth aircraft capable of making the approach. Outside, the massive ship still hovered above the city, a dark reminder of humanity's vulnerability. But within this small lab, the first spark of resistance had ignited. They took our children thinking we would break, June said, staring at the frozen image of Commander Day. They don't understand what humans do to protect their young. As night fell again, they worked feverishly against the countdown clock. Somewhere above them, 12 children waited in alien hands, unaware they hadn't been forgotten, that against impossible odds, humans were coming for them. The world's governments argued in endless video conferences, while the Vraxian mothership loomed over Seoul, a dark reminder of humanity's new reality. Some nations prepared their nuclear arsenals, a desperate last resort. Others drafted surrender documents, hoping to save lives at any cost. Meanwhile, in Dr. June Park's underground lab, 4 people raced against the clock. 29 hours remaining. Colonel Kim announced, his voice tight as he checked his watch. His military training kept him focused, but the photo of his son Jun on his phone screen revealed what drove him. Dr. June barely heard him. She hadn't slept since Sora's abduction. Her eyes red-rimmed as she analyzed the alien broadcast for the 20th time. Something about the commander's movements bothered her. "Look at this," she finally said, freezing the video. "See how he flinches when the light intensity changes, and the way the suit material reacts?" Dr. Lee leaned closer. "The membrane stretches, like it's responding to pressure changes." "Exactly. Their environmental suits aren't just for show. I think Earth's atmosphere might be toxic to them, or at least uncomfortable." June pulled up atmospheric comparison models she'd developed years ago for theoretical alien biology. If they evolved in a different atmospheric makeup, oxygen might be corrosive to their respiratory systems. Captain Han, who had been silently checking his weapons in the corner, looked up. "So they're not invincible. That's something, at least." "There's more." June switched screens to show the energy readings she'd been monitoring. "Their shield technology is incredible, but it requires massive energy. They can't maintain it continuously. There's a pattern. Every 83 seconds, there's a millisecond fluctuation." Dr. Lee nodded excitedly. "A cooling cycle. No system can run at perfect efficiency forever." Colonel Kim studied the pattern. "Can we use this?" 1 millisecond isn't much time. It's all we have," Captain Han said simply. Their planning was interrupted when all screens in the lab suddenly switched to an emergency broadcast. The Vraxian ship had just destroyed another target, this time a small military base in the Pacific, thankfully evacuated hours earlier. The message was clear. The countdown was real. "We need to move fast," Colonel Kim said. "I've secured a stealth aircraft, experimental technology. It might be invisible to their sensors. And I've been working on this." Dr. Lee opened a metal case containing what looked like modified tablets. Communication devices that should work inside their ship, operating on frequencies they're unlikely to monitor. June stared at the screens, showing the children in their stasis pods. Sora's face was peaceful, almost like she was just sleeping. "But we still don't know why they took the children specifically. Random hostages would have worked just as well." Something had been bothering her about the selection. The children came from different countries, different backgrounds, but their Had to be a connection. She pulled up their medical records, obtained through channels best not mentioned, and began cross-referencing data. There, she said hours later as the others finalized the infiltration plan. All 12 children have a rare genetic marker. It's so unusual it wouldn't appear in standard medical tests. I only recognize it because of my research. Colonel. Kim looked up from the tactical display. What does it mean? In humans, nothing special, it's just a genetic variation. But, she hesitated, thinking through the implications. What if the Vraxians aren't just here for resources? What if they need something specific from us? An alert beeped on Dr. Lee's computer. He had been running continuous scans of the mothership. Energy spike. They're scanning Earth again, focused on medical facilities this time. The pieces clicked together in June's mind. They're looking for more children with this marker. What if their species is dying? What if they need genetic material to survive? That would explain why they didn't just attack, Captain Han said. They need us alive, at least some of us. As if confirming their theory, new footage appeared on their screens. Another Vraxian, smaller than Commander Day, was examining one of the children. The aliens' movements were clinical, scientific. They're treating them like specimens, June whispered, rage building inside her. Not people. Dr. Lee zoomed in on the new aliens' activities. Look at the testing equipment, it's all genetic sampling. Colonel Kim's expression hardened. So they see us as what? A resource? A genetic bank to plunder? It fits their behavior, June said. The threat display, the limited destruction. They don't want to damage Earth too badly if they need human genetic material. Captain Han checked his weapons again. This changes the mission. We're not just rescuing hostages, we're stopping a harvest. The plan took shape quickly after that. Their stolen stealth craft, small enough for 4 people, would approach during a shield fluctuation. Once aboard, they would split into teams. June and Dr. Lee would locate the children while Colonel Kim and Captain Han created diversions and secured an escape route. We have 14 hours left, Colonel Kim said as they prepared to leave the lab. The world governments are still debating, but I received word that several are preparing to surrender. They don't know what we know, June said, packing the specialized equipment Dr. Lee had prepared. The Vraxians won't stop with just 12 children. Once they confirm the genetic marker works for whatever they're planning, they'll take more. Outside, night had fallen again. The Vraxian ship's lights pulsed faintly against the dark sky. To most, it was a symbol of defeat, proof that humanity was outmatched by the stars. But to the 4 people loading gear into an unmarked van, it was a challenge. Dr. Lee paused before entering the vehicle, looking up at the looming craft. Did you ever imagine we'd actually encounter aliens? After all those years of theoretical research? June followed his gaze. Not like this, never like this. As they drove toward the military airfield where their stealth craft waited, Colonel Kim received another update. 3 more countries had drafted surrender terms. They're running out of hope, he said quietly. Captain Han checked his tactical gear one final time. Then I guess we'll have to find some for them. The experimental aircraft waited on the darkened runway, its strange angles and matte black surface seeming to bend the night around it. It looked barely large enough for 4 people, and impossibly fragile against the task ahead. 1 millisecond, Dr. Lee reminded them as they boarded. We'll have exactly 1 chance to slip through their shield. June strapped herself in, thinking of Sora's face in that alien pod, of all the children treated like specimens instead of the precious, irreplaceable beings they were. 1 chance is all we need, she said. The experimental aircraft hovered in the shadow of a cloud bank, its stealth, technology making it nearly invisible against the night sky. Inside, the 4-person team made final preparations. The Vraxian mothership floated above them, its massive bulk blocking stars. Shield fluctuation in 20 seconds, Dr. Lee whispered, eyes fixed on his tablet. The device monitored the energy, pulses from the alien vessel, seeking the millisecond gap they needed. Colonel Kim took manual control of the craft. Despite its advanced autopilot, this approach would require human intuition and reflexes. Captain Han checked his weapons one last time. Non-lethal options first, followed by increasingly dangerous alternatives. They didn't know what would work against the Vraxians. June clutched a small photo of Sora. 10 seconds, she counted down. Remember, Colonel Kim said, once we're inside, we have no idea what we'll face. Their internal security, their numbers, their weapons, it's all unknown. 5 seconds. The tiny craft accelerated, streaking toward the underbelly of the massive ship. 3, 2, 1. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then a faint shimmer in the air, like heat rising from summer pavement, and they were through. Colonel Kim killed the engines immediately. The sudden silence was deafening as they drifted into a cavernous docking bay, carried by momentum alone. It worked, Dr. Lee breathed, hardly believing it. They guided the craft behind what appeared to be storage containers, landing without a sound. The docking bay stretched around them, filled with strange vessels and equipment. Most surprising was the atmosphere. They had expected to need breathing apparatus, but sensors indicated the air was close enough to Earth normal. They've adapted their environment for the children, June realized as they cautiously exited their craft. They need them alive and healthy. The interior of the ship was eerily quiet. Corridors stretched in geometric patterns that seemed subtly wrong to human eyes, angles too sharp, ceilings too low in some places, and unnecessarily high in others. The lighting pulsed with a blue-green tint that made their skin look sickly. Life. Signs that way? Dr. Lee whispered, checking his scanner. A large concentration. Could be their command center. And the children? June asked. Fainter readings, deeper in the ship. 2 levels down. They split as planned. Colonel Kim and Captain Han would create diversions throughout the ship while June and Dr. Lee searched for the children. As they separated, at a junction, Colonel Kim gripped June's shoulder. Find them, was all he said. The 2 soldiers moved with practiced stealth through the alien corridors. They placed small devices, developed by Dr. Lee, at key junctions. When activated, they would create system disruptions throughout the ship. They encountered their first Vraxian guard at a security checkpoint. The alien was taller than expected, nearly 7 feet, with the same gray-blue skin they'd seen on Commander Day. It moved with an unsettling fluidity, almost like its joints worked differently than human ones. Captain Han signaled silently. They had discussed this moment. First contact, first potential conflict. They needed to understand the enemy's capabilities. Colonel Kim deliberately stepped into view. The Vraxian reacted instantly, raising what appeared to be a weapon. Its vertical eyelids blinked rapidly as it made clicking sounds, either speech or an alarm. Before the alien could act further, Captain Han fired his first non-lethal option, a modified taser. The Vraxian convulsed violently, far more affected than a human would be. It collapsed, its weapon clattering to the floor. Electrical sensitivity, Captain Han noted. Useful information. They secured the unconscious alien and examined its weapon, surprisingly simple in design despite its alien appearance. A projectile launcher, not energy-based as they'd feared. They're not as advanced as we thought, Colonel Kim said. At least not in all ways. Meanwhile, June and Dr. Lee descended through maintenance shafts, avoiding main corridors. Dr. Lee's scanner led them toward the children's life signs, but they moved cautiously, aware that each corner could reveal danger. They found themselves in what appeared to be a research section. Through transparent walls, they could see laboratories with equipment both recognizable and utterly alien. And more disturbing, storage units containing what looked like biological samples. Human biological samples. Look at these markings, June whispered, examining a data panel. Though she couldn't read the Vraxian language, the images were clear enough. DNA strands, cellular structures. They're studying human genetics, Dr. Lee confirmed, on a massive scale. A sound made them duck behind equipment. 2 Vraxians entered the lab, engaged in what appeared to be an argument. Their clicking speech was untranslatable, but their body language conveyed disagreement. One gestured repeatedly at a data screen showing a child's DNA sequence. June recognized the pattern as the rare marker all 12 children shared. When the aliens left, June and Dr. Lee continued through the research section. What they found in the next chamber stopped them cold. A massive database showing hundreds of planets, most marked with symbols that clearly indicated extinction or depletion. They're not just invaders, Dr. Lee whispered. They're parasites, June finished. They use up worlds and move on. A holographic display activated nearby, showing what appeared to be Vraxian genetic sequences. Even to June's trained eye, the degradation was obvious. Their species is dying, she realized. Genetic collapse. They need fresh DNA to revitalize their genome. And they've chosen humans as compatible donors, Dr. Lee added grimly. The implication was clear. The 12 children were just the beginning. If the Vraxians confirmed compatibility, they would harvest genetic material from millions, perhaps turning Earth into a breeding colony. An alarm suddenly blared through the ship. Colonel Kim and Captain Han had activated their diversions. Red lighting pulsed through the corridors as Vraxian voices clicked in apparent confusion. Now's our chance, June said. They hurried deeper into the ship, following the scanner toward the children's life signs. Above them, Colonel Kim and Captain Han were discovering something unexpected about their enemy. When cornered by a group of Vraxian guards, they'd been forced to engage in close combat. To their surprise, despite the aliens' intimidating appearance, they were physically weaker than humans, evolved for intelligence rather than strength. A Vraxian commander watched in obvious shock as Captain Han disarmed 2 guards with bare hands. The aliens' reaction suggested they'd never encountered a species that could match them physically. Their technological superiority had made such considerations unnecessary. Colonel Kim activated his comlink. June, the aliens, they're not used to resistance. We're stronger than they expected. June received his message as she and Dr. Lee reached a heavily secured door. That fits their pattern. If they prey on less developed worlds, they wouldn't need physical strength. Dr. Lee worked quickly to bypass the alien security system. Their tech is advanced, but follows logical patterns, almost predictable. The door slid open, revealing a chamber bathed in soft blue light. And there, in 12 transparent pods arranged in a circle, were the children. Their small forms floated in clear liquid, eyes closed, breathing steadily through masks. Sora, June, whispered, rushing to her daughter's pod. The girl's face was peaceful, unaware of the danger around her. Dr. Lee examined the control panel. They're in induced stasis, physically unharmed, but we need to be careful reviving them. As they worked to understand the release mechanism, a new alarm sounded, different from the diversionary ones. On a nearby screen, Commander Day's face appeared, issuing orders to subordinates. Though they couldn't understand the language, his angry gestures made the message clear. Something's changed, June said. We need to move faster. On the command deck, Commander Day had just received devastating news. The humans they'd dismissed as primitive had somehow breached their shields, infiltrated their ship, and were now threatening the entire operation. Worse, the intruders had discovered their true purpose. The Vraxian commander gave the order that would change everything: immediate neural processing of the children. If the genetic material couldn't be harvested properly, they would take what they could get. In the stasis chamber, June and Dr. Lee felt the ship shudder as new systems powered up. We're running out of time, June said, working frantically to release her daughter. The stasis pods began to glow with an intensifying blue light. Through the transparent material, June could see Sora's face twitch slightly, the first movement since her abduction. Whatever process Commander Day had initiated was already affecting the children. Neural processing, Dr. Lee said, his fingers flying across the alien control panel. They're accelerating. We have minutes, not hours. June placed her hand against her daughter's pod. Sora, hang on. We're here. A small miracle happened then. Sora's eyes fluttered open. For a moment, confusion clouded her features, then recognition. Her mouth moved behind the breathing mask, forming a single word. Mom? She's awake, June gasped. But how? The stasis. Look at the others, Dr. Lee pointed. Around the circular chamber, other children were stirring too. not just waking, but alert. Their eyes moved purposefully, examining their surroundings with what looked like practiced awareness. Sora's hand pressed against the inside of her pod, matching her mother's on the outside. Then, incredibly, she made a series of deliberate gestures, not random movement but patterned like sign language. "She's trying to tell us something," June said. Before she could decipher the message, the chamber door hissed open. They spun around expecting Vraxian guards but instead found Colonel Kim and Captain Han, both showing signs of combat but still moving with purpose. "The ship's in chaos," Colonel Kim reported. "Their security protocols weren't designed for internal threats, but they're adapting quickly." Captain Han secured the door behind them. "We found their environmental controls. Their atmosphere regulation is their weak point. They need precise gas mixtures to function optimally." Dr. Lee turned back to the control panel. "I'm trying to override the stasis system, but it's locked down tight. There must be emergency release." A tapping sound interrupted him. All four adults turned to see Jun, Colonel Kim's son, rapping, his knuckles against his pod in a distinct pattern. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short, that's Morse code, Captain Han realized. "SOS!" Colonel Kim rushed to his son's pod. "He knows Morse code from our camping trips. I taught him for emergencies." Jun continued tapping, his message becoming clearer. "Not first time awake." "What does he mean?" Dr. Lee asked. Sora had begun tapping too, coordinating with Jun. "Been awake 3 days, learning systems." The adults exchanged stunned looks. "They've been conscious inside the stasis pods?" June whispered. "All children communicate." Jun tapped. "Found way to fight drugs." The realization hit them all at once. The children hadn't been passive victims. Somehow they had resisted the alien sedation, had been aware, had been watching and learning. Sora tapped rapidly. "Can help escape. No ship layout." "How is this possible?" Captain Han asked. Dr. Lee examined the stasis system more carefully. The Vraxians calculated dosage based on average human metabolism. But these children all share that genetic marker. It must affect how they process the sedatives. Colonel Kim watched his son with newfound wonder. "They've been fighting back. All along." Jun tapped. "We sabotage when they remove for tests. Small things. Slow systems." Another child, a girl named Hana according to her pod's label, began tapping from across the chamber. "Aliens argue. Some want kill us. Some say need alive." June felt a surge of both pride and fear. "They've been gathering intelligence, working together. Smart kids," Captain Han said with grudging respect. The children continued their tapping communications, revealing an astonishing story. During brief periods when the sedatives weakened, they had developed their own system to communicate. First with eye movements, then finger taps when they were individually removed for testing. They'd memorized corridors, observed guard rotations, even discovered how to slightly jam equipment when the aliens weren't looking. Sora tapped. "Bad thing coming. Heard them plan. We'll take our brains." June's blood went cold. "The neural processing, they're going to extract neural tissue. Not if we get them out first," Colonel Kim said firmly. Dr. Lee studied the system with renewed determination. "The release mechanism needs authorization from the primary research lab. It's designed that way to prevent accidental revival." Captain Han checked his weapons. "Then we go to the lab and force them to release the pods." A new message from Jun. "No time. Can help another way." The boy's fingers moved in elaborate patterns against the glass, demonstrating something. Sora and the others began mimicking the movements. "What are they doing?" June asked. Dr. Lee watched closely, then suddenly understood. "The internal pod controls. There must be emergency releases inside each pod, safety measures in case of system failure. They're showing us the override sequence," Colonel Kim realized. Following June's demonstration, Dr. Lee found a small panel hidden beneath the main controls. "This matches his pattern. If I input the same sequence..." The lights in the chamber flickered. A warning alarm sounded briefly, then cut off. Something's happening, Captain Han said, weapon raised toward the door. Around the room, the stasis pods hissed as seals released. The clear liquid began draining from each pod. The children remained still, continuing their breathing through masks until the fluid level dropped below their faces. Sora's pod opened first. She pulled the breathing mask off, gasping slightly as she adjusted to normal air. June helped her out, holding her wet, shivering daughter close. "I knew you'd come," Sora whispered, her voice hoarse from disuse. Colonel Kim helped Jun from his podding. The boy was weak, but alert. "They underestimated us," June said simply. As the other children emerged, supported by the adults, an emergency alert blared through the ship. Commander Day's voice echoed in the alien language, clearly ordering a full lockdown. "They know," Captain Han said, moving to the door. Young Hana, still dripping with stasis fluid, spoke up. "There's another way out. Maintenance tunnel behind the third pod. Leads to lower deck." The adults stared at her in surprise. "We watched. Everything," she explained. "Memorized it all." Q, the youngest boy, added, "They think we're just animals. They talk freely in front of us." Dr. Lee found the hidden maintenance access exactly where Hana had indicated. "These kids are incredible." As they prepared to move, Sora gripped her mother's arm. "Mom, there's something else. Something important. The aliens, they're dying." "We know," June said. "Their genetic structure is failing." Sora shook her head. "Not just that. Their planet is gone. They're refugees. The last ones." This new information stunned the adults. They had seen the Vraxians as invaders, predators, not desperate survivors. "Does that change anything?" "Captain," Han asked pragmatically. "No," Colonel Kim answered. "They still took our children, still threatened our world. But it explains their desperation," June said quietly. The ship suddenly lurched sideways, throwing them against the walls. Emergency lights pulsed red throughout the chamber. "What was that?" Dr. Lee steadied himself. "Earth's military, Captain," Han guessed. "They must have launched an attack." Jun shook his head. "No, it's us, the other children. We programmed the food dispensers to short-circuit." "You did what?" Colonel Kim looked at his son in disbelief. "We couldn't reach important systems," Sora explained. "But the food dispensers connect to environmental controls. Simple feedback loop." Hana figured it out. The Korean girl nodded. "Crash one system affects all systems." The adults exchanged looks of amazement. These children, taken as hostages, had formed their own resistance movement from inside stasis. "Pods, we need to move now," June said. "The ship's in chaos. It's our best chance." As they helped the weakened children into the maintenance tunnel, they heard heavy footsteps approaching the chamber door. The Vraxians had realized their precious specimens were escaping. Sora, last to enter the tunnel, paused. "There's something else you should know. Something about Commander Day." "What about him?" June asked, urging her daughter along. "He's afraid of us," Sora said simply. "Not just you, adults. The children. He doesn't understand why we fought the stasis drugs when no other species ever has. He thinks humans have something his people lost long ago." "And what's that?" Colonel Kim asked. Sora's answer was interrupted by the chamber door bursting open. Captain Han fired his weapon, buying them crucial seconds to seal the maintenance tunnel behind them. In the cramped passage, lit only by emergency lighting, 12 children and 4 adults began their desperate journey through the heart of the alien ship, guided not by technology or weapons, but by the remarkable mental map created by captives who refused to surrender. The maintenance tunnel seemed endless, barely wide enough for the adults to crawl through. The children moved faster, their smaller bodies navigating the tight spaces with ease. Despite days in stasis, they pushed forward with determination that amazed the rescue team. Left at the junction, June whispered from the front. Then 3 levels down, Colonel Kim followed his son, pride mixing with concern. "How do you know this route so well?" "When they took us for tests, we memorized everything," June explained. Each child was responsible for different sections of the ship. Sora, close behind them, added, "We made a game of it. Whoever remembered most details won. Helped us stay human." The word hung in the air, somehow more meaningful here in the heart of an alien vessel. Dr. Lee consulted his tablet. "Ship systems are in disarray. Whatever the children did to the food dispensers has cascaded through their network. Told you it would work," young Hana said with quiet confidence. "Their systems are too connected. One failure spreads. They reached a vertical shaft where rungs formed a ladder downward. Captain Han went first, weapon ready, followed by the children in groups, with the remaining adults spaced between them. Once we reach Deck 5, Sora explained as they descended, we'll be near their communications hub. Jun's idea. Colonel Kim looked questioningly at his son. "We need to tell Earth not to surrender," Jun said seriously. "The aliens lied about everything." The boy was right, Jun realized. World governments would be nearing the deadline, preparing desperate measures or surrender documents without knowing the truth. They reached the lower deck, emerging into a corridor bathed in pulsing red emergency light. From everywhere came clicking alarms and Vraxian voices, the tone unmistakably panicked even in an alien language. "This way." Q, the smallest boy, pointed confidently. "Communication center through there." Captain Han took point, moving cautiously, around a corner, then quickly pulled back as two Vraxian guards rushed past, too occupied with the ship's malfunctions to notice the briefly exposed human. "Clear," he whispered after they passed. They moved as a group now, the children in the middle, protected on all sides. The ship shuddered occasionally, systems failing throughout its massive structure. "There." Q pointed to a door marked with symbols that must indicate communications. Dr. Lee examined the security panel. "Different encryption than the stasis pods. I need time." "We don't have time," Colonel Kim said, checking behind them. Surprisingly, it was young Jun who stepped forward. "I can do it. I watched them enter codes." His father hesitated, then nodded. Jun's small fingers moved across the alien keypad with surprising confidence, pressing symbols in a specific sequence. The door slid open. The communications hub was mercifully empty, its operators likely responding to the cascading emergencies elsewhere. Screens covered the walls, many showing what appeared to be damage reports from throughout the ship. "Can we broadcast to Earth from here?" Jun asked. Dr. Lee examined the equipment. "If we can figure out how their transmission system works—" "I know which one," Sora said, pointing to a console set apart from the others. "That's what Commander Day used for his message. I watched from my pod." As they approached the console, the door behind them hissed open. They spun around, weapons ready, to find themselves facing Commander Day himself, flanked by 4 guards. The Vraxian leader's vertical eyes widened at the sight of the freed children. He spoke, his clicking language unintelligible but his anger unmistakable. "He wants to know how we escaped," Sora translated, surprising everyone. "You understand their language?" Jun asked her daughter. "Not all of it, but enough. They didn't think we were listening." Commander Day clicked rapidly, gesturing with long, thin fingers at the children. "He says we belong to them now," Sora continued. "Says his species will die without us." Captain Han raised his weapon. "Tell him that's not our problem." Before Sora could translate, Jun stepped forward. "No, let me speak to him." She faced the alien commander directly. "Your plan has failed. Earth now knows what you really want. We're not genetic material to harvest, we're people. Those are our children, not your specimens." Dr. Lee worked on the translation system as she spoke. After a moment, her words were converted into the clicking language of the Vraxians. Commander Dai listened, his posture shifting slightly. His response came through the translator moments later. "Your species is primitive. You cannot comprehend the complexity of our need. We have searched 1,000 worlds. Your children hold the key to our survival. That doesn't give you the right to take them," Colonel Kim said firmly, standing protectively near his son. "Rights?" The alien's translation carried a tone of genuine confusion. "Resources do not have rights. Lower species exist to serve higher development. We're not lower, June countered. You just assumed we were because our technology isn't as advanced. But look around you. Children breached your stasis systems. Humans infiltrated your ship. We fought back in ways you never expected. Commander Day's eyes shifted to the children, studying them with new intensity. Anomalies. Unexpected resistance. Still irrelevant to the greater purpose. Young June suddenly spoke up. You're afraid. Your world is gone. Your people are dying. You're the last ones. The commander visibly recoiled at hearing his language from a human child's mouth. We figured it out, Sora added. The tests, the genetic samples. You're desperate because you're going extinct. For a moment, silence fell across the communications hub. The Vraxian guards looked to their commander, awaiting orders. Commander Day seemed genuinely unsettled by the children's understanding. You know nothing, he finally responded. We are the Vraxian expansion. We have conquered worlds beyond your comprehension. And now you're running scared, Captain Han said. Stealing children because you can't save yourselves. The confrontation was interrupted by a new alarm. Different from the others. One of the wall screens changed to show Earth military forces mobilizing worldwide. Fighter jets launched from carriers. Missile silos opened. Your species chooses extinction then, Commander Day said coldly. Those weapons cannot harm our ship. Dr. Lee, who had been working silently at a console, looked up with a half smile. Maybe not from the outside. He held up a small device, one of the disruptors they had placed throughout the ship. But we've been studying your propulsion systems. Your shields draw power from the same source. One overload. Commander Day's composure visibly cracked. Impossible. You cannot comprehend our technology. We don't need to, June said. We just need to understand its weaknesses. The standoff was broken by young Q, who had slipped unnoticed to a secondary console during the confrontation. The smallest child, most often overlooked by the Vraxians during captivity, pressed a sequence of commands that suddenly connected their location to Earth's emergency broadcast system. People of Earth, the boy spoke clearly into the activated channel. This is Q Park, one of the abducted children. We are alive, do not surrender, the aliens are vulnerable. Their ship is failing. Commander Day lunged toward the child, but Colonel Kim intercepted him. To everyone's surprise, the Vraxian leader was easily overpowered, physically weaker than even an average human despite his imposing height. You don't understand what you're destroying, Commander Day hissed as Colonel Kim restrained him. We are the last, the final remnant. Then you should have asked for help, June said, not taken our children. As the ship shuddered around them, they initiated the final phase of their escape. Captain Han secured the Vraxian guards while Dr. Lee used the ship's own systems to locate their entry craft. The children led the way through maintenance corridors, avoiding the main passageways now crowded with panicking aliens. Before leaving the communications hub, June activated the ship-wide transmission system. Her message was simple. Attention Vraxian crew. Your commander has been captured. Your systems are failing. Release all Earth children and withdraw from our world, or we will destroy this vessel from within. As they hurried toward the landing bay, Sora looked up at her mother. What will happen to them? They really are the last of their kind. June considered the question with the seriousness it deserved. That will be for Earth's leaders to decide. But taking children is never the answer, no matter how desperate you are. They reached their stealth craft just as the mothership's engines began a critical shutdown sequence, Dr. Lee's final gift to the Vraxian systems. As they launched through the temporarily disrupted shield barrier, they saw other Vraxian vessels detaching from the mothership, retreating to higher orbit. From the view screen of their small craft, they watched as Commander Day's final transmission reached Earth. Not threats this time, but a warning to his own kind. Planet Earth classification updated. Apex predator territory. Humans possess unexpected resilience. Genetic harvesting deemed non-viable. Recommend permanent quarantine of this sector. The mothership, systems failing but not destroyed, began a slow retreat from Earth orbit. The smaller Vraxian vessels followed, abandoning their invasion without firing another shot. As their tiny craft descended toward a cheering welcome on the ground below, Colonel Kim looked at the 12 children who had fought their own battle from inside alien pods. "I've been a soldier for 20 years, he said quietly, "but I've never seen courage like yours." June leaned against his father's side, exhausted but proud. "They thought we were just kids." "That," June said, hugging Sora close, "was their biggest mistake."